back into the Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. So, just a little recap for those of you who are following in, um, like after having read the prologue in the chapter, uh, Sally and Jack have just gotten married, on top of the what is it called? It's called, it was on top of the Curly Hill. Whatever. Spiral Hill is what it's called. Um, yeah, so they had just gotten married. The characters that we've seen so far is like the mayor, Lock, Shock, and Barrel. Um, what else? And of course, Jack and Sally, and Dr. Finkelstein. Also, they had just left onto their honeymoon. So they walked all the way through to the forest where Jack first saw the I think 8 different doors, the different seasons of the doors. Let me see. I think it was 8. Oh, 7 holidays. So there's seven doors there, and they were about to open, or they had opened up the Valentine's Day one that looks like a heart shape, and they were about to go in. So that's where we left off. All right, let's get into this. We fall headlong through the doorway as if caught in a hollowed breeze until at last we spill out the other side, landing in Valentine's Town, a place wholly unfamiliar and strange. Quickly, I run my fingers down my legs, checking my threads, and seems to be sure none have split or tugged loose. Then I breathe in the gentle, sweet scent of sugar, sugar. Sorry, it's like hyphen. It's like SUG dash, and I was like, what the fuck is this word? Sugared chocolate and roses in bloom, surrounding us, standing a grove of trees nearly identical to our own. 7 trees grown in a circle, one for each of the 7 holidays. Yet the forest overhead is thick, with tall swaying branches, green leaves, and tiny white flowers stirring loose with each gust of wind. Nothing like the bony, leafless trees that populate the woods in Halloween Town. Jack weaves his fingers through mine, grinning curiously like he's just sprung from a shadow and frightened a ghost back into the dark, one of his favorite pastimes. And we follow the winding path out of the forest, away from the grove of 7 trees. I run my fingertips along the dusty pink poppies and vibrant blood red roses that line the path, and when we finally step free of the dense forest, I peer up at a cloudless sky shimmering a soft, airy pink. It's daylight here, I commented, surprised. When we left Halloween Town, it was night. Every town has its own keeping of time, of sunrise and sunsets, Jack says, waving a hand towards the sky. They they're called time zones. Um, I squeeze his hand tighter, feeling briefly off center, like my seams are tugging too tightly against my skin. Traveling from one town to another, one time zone to another, is strangely disorienting, and my head whirls and spins as if I might tip over. Where's their graveyard? I asked as we follow the path through a rose-studded meadow nearing the edge of the town. In Halloween Town, our graveyard rests on the outer border near the gate, where the howling voices of the dead can be heard echoing through the streets each night, and I expect to see one by now. If their cemetery is too far away, how will they ever be able to hear tormented spirits of the dead? Not every holiday town has a graveyard, Jack explains, giving me a wink. But look at all the hearts. He pointed a bone sharp figure toward an iron gate up ahead. Hundreds of tiny hearts forged into woven silvery metal. On either side of the gate sit two cherry blossom trees, the branches grown and maybe trimmed into the shape of a massive towering heart. It's an old, unnatural sight, though certainly beautiful, and I wonder if here in Valentine's Town all plants grow into such unusual shapes. The trees sway and bob in the wind, releasing their tiny blossoms into the air. What do the hearts mean? I asked. Apparently, Valentine's Day is a holiday that happens every February, uh, Jack raises the bones above his eyes into his forehead, and humans surprise one another with sweets and roses and poorly written love poems. Haven't we all written one of those unsightly poems? Am I right? Uh, Um, let's see. Why? Who knows? Jack grins, tossing his gaze towards the town. But isn't it wonderful? And truly, Valentine's Day is unexpectedly charming in an old sideways sort of way. No city sky or charcoal buildings teetering in the distance, no rotting skulls or jack o' lanterns growing sinisterly in the dark, no cackling ghouls or demons or grim reapers with hollowed out eyes watching us from shadowed corners. In fact, there are no dark places at all. Instead, everything is bright and confectionery, sugary, shiny. The air has a pink, dreamy quality, a subtle sweet tinge, like rosebuds newly bloomed in spring, or the first lick of pumpkin pie filling on a spoon. It all seems twisted up and spit out wrong. Yet my eyes away from one hedge rosebush to another, my heart lit lilting in my chest in a way that makes me dizzy. What the hell is lilting? Anyone know? I'm gonna look this up. Lilting. A gerund or present participle. Speak sound or a sound with a lilt. What the frick is that? Raising or here, let's go by Cambridge Dictionary. Um, of a voice or a piece of music rising and falling in a regular or rhythmic way. Okay, so it's like something I guess like that. It's like the ability to rise and fall in song form, I guess. Um all right, getting back to this. This place is something entirely unfamiliar and undeniably delightful. We pass through the Heart Forge gate and I can feel my seams relax just a little bit. My dead leaves settling in my chest when the sky is blotted out above us. A mass of birds flock towards town, mul- muting the candy tinted sun. Is that muting or mudding? There's only one T. It's Muting. I don't know, but I hate the fact that there's so many fucking hyphenations because they couldn't fit all the rest of the word on the fucking page. It's like add an extra space. Just have it go down to the next line. um, but when I squint up at them, trying to make a sense of their old shape, I realize that they're not birds at all. It's a flock of small baby-like creatures, five of them fluttering above us, rosy cheeked and plump bellied, with tiny wooden bows and heart shaped arrows strapped in sheaths at their small backs, white wings flapping. What are they? No idea, Jack replies with grin, but they either don't notice us or don't care, and they continue their flight towards the shimmering mass of buildings ahead. Man, okay, that's kind of weird. Rosy cheeked and plumped bellies with a tiny wooden bows and heart shaped arrows strapped in sheaths at their small backs. Oh, these are like little cupids. I think that's what she's referring to. The winged cupids. That's what they are. Because I mean they have their heart shaped arrows strapped to their backs, right? They got rosy cheeks and plump bellies and then tiny or white wings flapping around. So that I think that's what she's talking about. The worn dirt path soon becomes a cobblestone street, taking us straight into the heart of Valentinestown. And my eyes widen, not wanting to miss a single detail of the white, chalky stone homes that line the street. They look almost edible, with pink tiled roofs and heart framed windows, and the stained glass reminds me of melted sugar, like you could press your tongue to it and it would surely taste sweet. I feel myself grinning as widely as Jack, urging him on, until at last we reach the town center, marked by stone foundation, with a carved cherry-cheeked baby at the top, identical to the flock of the baby creatures we saw flying overhead just outside town. I lean against the edge of the fountain, peering down at the water, which glistens a pale candy pink, nothing like swampy green fountain back in Halloween Town, my reflection staring back. Do you think we can drink it? I asked, inching my hand closer to the water. Certainly it will taste like icing and marigold petals. But before my fingertips can break the surface, a cool, velvety voice speaks behind us. It's nice to see two lovers in town. I straightened and looked up and up until at last meeting the gaze of a woman who is a good foot taller than Jack. She is a tower, wearing a long chiffon gown with tiny white embroidered hearts stitched into the cream fabric of her shirt. Her strawberry red hair coiled up into a honeycomb beehive with a gold heart beret clipped softly at her temple. Visiting from elsewhere? She asked vaguely, tapping her rosebud lips with a long painted fingernail. Her skin is a soft pinkish hue as if she'd been eating too many rose petals and it has begun to change the color of her flesh. I'm Jack Skellington, my husband announced, sticking out his hand. The Pumpkin King from Halloween Town. This is my bride, Sally, the Pumpkin Queen. Yes, yes, good, she replies, ignoring his hand as if she's uninterested in our names or the details of why we're here. She cares more about her own introduction. I'm Queen Ruby Valentino, and this is my town. She trails along, elegant hand along one side of her dress in a flourished, wide sweeping curtsy. I marvel at how poised she is, a bloom with confidence. Even the features of her face are neat and organized, not a stray freckle out of place. She is a visage of what I've imagined perfect royal etiquette might look like, and I suddenly feel quite unqueen-like in her presence. It's our first visit to Valentine's Town, Jack replies cheerfully, shoulders back, undaunted by this woman's regal demeanor. But Ruby's eyes suddenly snap away from us. Gah, she exclaims, a bleeding heart. Paolo, Paolo, I told you to rip these out as soon as you see them. A slim, high waisted man appears as if he had been crouched behind Ruby, awaiting any command she might thrust upon him. Wearing an apron, a sun hat, and long pale slacks and clutching a pair of garden shears in his uh, dirt stained hand. He wipes at his forehead quickly. So sorry, Your Royal Highness. I must have missed this one. Ruby gracefully bends towards the ground despite her heavy gown and heels, plucking a single flower with a blood red center that had been growing up between the stone pavers. The sound that sound the fountain. She holds the flowers up for us to see. Can't have these bleeding hearts growing so near the fountain, she says, her mouth contorting into a dis- disgusted little sneer. I blink at the tiny harmless looking flower pinched between her fingers, summon the question inside of me as if I am a child afraid to speak. Why is that? My voice sounds much too small, meager, and weak, not the words of a queen. Ruby flicks her gaze to me, her sneering soften. The cupids dip their arrows into the fountain, of course, she says. It's like I should already know this, and I gaze down into the water like light shimmering across the surface, like little pink diamonds. Our love potion bubbles up from natural springs beneath the fountain. She raises her perfectly plucked eyebrows at me. If a bleeding heart flower made its way into the fountain, then everyone who was struck by Cupid's arrow on Valentine's Day would suffer a broken heart a, instead of falling in love. She she tosses the flower onto the ground and crushes it with the toe of her lollipop red heeled shoes. When she lifts her foot, Paolo, the man who stands with hands wringing beside her, quickly skitters forward and retrieves the flattened flower from the ground. I'll burn it immediately, he says, then scurries off. Ruby smiles softly, pleased, then tilts her gaze back at Jack and me. Do you have a place to stay? Jack clears his throat. Not yet. Follow me, she says with a flourish, her voice now a sing song, a collection of musical notes as though a bird is resting at the back of her throat. And she leads us away from the fountain. So, um, there's still more. I'm just gonna take a quick pause, real quick, as I need to go to the bathroom. All right, sorry, folks. All right, let's see. Ah, okay. So we are ready to go. We pass a cafe where the scent of rising dough fills the air, and a dentist's office with a painted window that reads half price cavity repair. Then, in a smaller print, free lollipop with each tooth removal. The people who stroll past us, doe eyed and fully cheeked, always, always seems to be in pairs arms woven together, secret words whispered into each other's ears. They sit side by side on cafe patios, faces nestled together, kisses planted on bare necks, and many of them have tulip pinned at their lapels or tucked neatly into shirt pockets, while others have wildflowers braided into their hair. This sounds like a hippie area. No, just kidding. Um, Love is imbued into every seam and stitch of this town. It's inescapable, and I feel the dead leaves in my chest swelling and swimming at the sight of it all. Another block more, and Ruby stops in front of a brick building above us. The swaying wooden sign reads Lovebird Inn. Wait here, she says, winking, then disappears into the narrow doorway. Moments later, she reappears clutching a silver key. You'll be staying in one of the cottages around back. They, they're perfectly quaint and well appointed. You should be quite happy there. Jack smiles, taking the key from her. Splendid! Thank you. Ruby re-secures a stray pin that has become loose from her wavy cherry red hair just as her eyes flash upward. Slow down, she shouts. Above us, a cloud of the winged babies flutter over the town before disappearing into the distance. Ruby Ruby lets out an irritated sigh. The cupids are so unruly this time of year. Restless little troublemakers. She gives me a look and as if I should have an idea of what she's talking about. They grow bored with nothing to do just waiting for February, for Valentine's Day, so they fly in packs, stirring up all sorts of mischief. She blows out a quick breath through her nostrils. Cupids can only be trusted on Valentine's Day. The rest of the year, they're an awful nuisance. Sounds like Lock, Shock, and Barrel. um, Ruby peers at me with her soft chocolate eyes, gaze roving from my feet to the top of my head, like she's surveying my appearance for the first time. She tilts her head and plants a delicate hand on her hips. Your hair is a little dull for a queen, she remarks. My stylist could weave in a few curls, maybe a highlight or two. Have you looking a little more? She taps a fingernail against her bottom lips. Well, like me, a smile spark in her clear dew eyes. I'd be happy to make an appointment for you while you're here. I shake my head quickly, not liking the prying feel of her eyes on me, the sharp appraising look. I don't think I started picking at those loose threads on my left wrist, making it worse. No, thank you. She shrugs, turning her attention up the street where two lovers are entangled in the doorway of a chocolate shop. A tall, lean, dark haired man reciting words to a man with curly blonde hair and freckles, a poem that seems handwritten himself, the words scribbled onto a pink piece of paper he holds in his palms. Ruby sighs softly as if caught in the sweetness of the moment, the tenderness between two people madly, deliriously in love. She wipes at her eyes as if a tear is about to fall. Then she turns to look back at Jack and me and say, she begins her eyes flitting, her eyelashes flitting. You two wouldn't happen to know someone named William Shakespeare? Jack lifts the bones above his hollowed eyes. Sorry, no. Ruby lets out a long, troubled sigh, puckering her full painted lips. He writes the most beautiful sonnets, and I'm certain he is my one true love. But I'm having terrible time finding him. Jack pauses as we share a look. There are many books in Jack's library written by William Shakespeare. Beautiful, often tragic stories, but they all are rather old, and I'm certain William Shakespeare is good and dead quite some time ago now. But I give Jack a quick shake of my head, not wanting to break Ruby's heart by telling her as much. That's crazy. This this lady, the owner of, or the basically the mayor of the town, or the owner of the town, she's in love with William Shakespeare, and he fucking straight up lied to her. I wonder if that's gonna like backstab him later, like having lied to her. But that's kind of crazy. Being in love with somebody you'll never get to meet because they're already dead. I wonder if like I think there's been like movies that kind of like happen that way where they never meet because uh yeah, everything's been it's just there's no way for them to be together because that person's already dead. That would be an interesting story though. Um, if we come across him, Jack adds with a gentle smile, we'll certainly send him your way. Thank you. Ruby's mouth curves upwards, even while her eyes betray a glimmer of sadness. I hope you both enjoy your stay with us. It should be a lovely day to stroll the city. Make sure to stop at Romeo's Delic- Delicatessen. Um, they make the most divine caramel teardrops you've ever had in your life. I have no idea what a caramel teardrop is, but I'm certain Romeo's Delicatessen is named after Romeo from Shakespeare's play Romeo and Juliet, a reminder of the man who Ruby has never met but loves anyways. She gives us a quick curtsy before turning away and sauntering down the cobblestone street. I watch her a moment as she stops to speak to shop owners and townspeople, shaking hands in queenly silhouette against the sugared, heart-caved backdrops of her town. I'm certain I don't cast quite a striking a I'm certain I don't cast quite as striking a queenly figure in Halloween Town. I'm all around edges. I'm all rounded edges and deadly spilling out from loosened seams. I'm nothing like her. A sharp blade of doubt edges into my thoughts. Maybe I am more unprepared for this role than I realized. But Jack folds his hands over mine. Then and the look of excitement in his eyes forces my own searing thoughts to retreat. We find the path that winds around Lovebird Inn to where a dozen small cottages sit like kisses nestled between the tall grass and rustling white pine trees. Jack slides the key into the lock of cottage number 5, set on the far left of the others. Who else comes to stay here? I ask curiously. Anyone, I suppose, he says. Those from other holidays who pass through the doorways and want a weekend away, a vacation. We push into the little cottage and are met with the scent of vanilla, jasmine candles, and rose petals scattered along the wood floor. Jack places our suitcases beside the bed. Why does no one come to Halloween Town to visit? I ask, wa- uh, walking to the lace curtain and pulling it back to look at, out on Valentine's Town. We don't have an inn, Jack's eyes lift, his peculiar smile upward, but perhaps we should. Tourism might be good for the town. I let the curtain fall back I let the curtain fall back into place, and Jack crosses the room taking my hand in his. There's so much to see, he says, at last, kissing my palm and not a moment to waste. With our suitcase now deposited into our cottage, we venture back out into Valentine's Town. Wow, that's a lot for for what's going on currently. But let's continue. So the day is a whirl of chocolate confections dipped in hazelnut and caramelized brown sugar, raspberries coated in white chocolate, and chalky little hearts with words stamped onto their surfaces. Love bug, sweet pea, XOXO. Wow. I would definitely eat the hazelnut ones. Not sure about the raspberry ones though. Um, it's the chalky little hearts with words stamped on it. I think these are the little heart kisses that we get. Um, we even passed the factory where the hearts are made. Stacks of little pink boxes lined up in the window, surely to be delivered to the human world once Valentine's Day arrives. Even the air smelled sweet. I say, popping a cherry truffle into my mouth as we wander the cobbled streets, feeling the chocolate break apart in on my tongue. Jack takes my hand and twirls me in a circle. I knew you would love it here. I think how heavenly it must be to nibble on tiny cakes and swirled caramels and plum ginger puffs all day. Tea with lemon petit fours in the afternoon. After dinner, mint truffles with butterscotch coffee in the evening. My mind swims with the notion of it, the ease, sugar-induced lull that would follow me into candy-tinted dreams each night. Life here in Valentine's Town would surely be simple and uncomplicated. I mean, that sounds like diabetes galore, man. I feel like if they were human, they would be dead having that having that for maybe like every day for a month maybe or even a year. But yeah, outside a small pastry, the window displayed filled with trays of butter cookies. A squat woman is ordering a box of uh, meringues from the gray mustached man in the doorway, and besides her is a lace trimmed pram filled with three wailing babies. They all have a twirl of dark hair atop their otherwise bald heads, skin the color of figs, just like the woman, with lips stained a bright pink and a dusting of powdered sugar along their fingertips and white bibs. I bend down and touch the chubby hand of one of the crying infants, and it immediately grabs my pointed finger and squeezes, giggling how its gummy, toothless mouth. The other two infants stop crying and peer up at me with their moon saucered eyes, all three gazing at me as if they were looking at the night sky in wonder. Well done, the squat woman remarks, nodding down at me. They usually don't quite for anything but sweets, but they certainly like you. She places her box of cookies atop the little awning of the pram. And are they cupids? I ask curiously why these babies are tucked into a pram. Well, we've seen others flying through town with tiny bows and arrows. They will be once they've grown their wings, she answered, bending down to straighten the white ruffled tonics on the third baby in the back. Having a sweet day, she says to me, or have a sweet day, she says to me, smiling before starting to push the pram away. The baby releases my finger and begins making a fussing sound, followed by a full wail. But the woman keeps pushing them up the cobbled street, humming to the infants in a gentle, sugary sing song. I wonder if someday Jack and I will have our own prawn filled with tiny skeletons and rag dolls. I mean, would they? Because Jack's technically dead, right? And although Sally's living on magicalness, right? Um, and she's got nothing but like leaves in her body. I wonder how that exactly would work. You know what I mean? Um, I wouldn't understand because one, Jack is nothing but moans. So there's like no semen, no nothing to like conjure up that or to even, consummate that. And even if you did have it something, right, to shoot inside of her, she's nothing but leaves. How is anything gonna grow in that, right? Unless if there's like some sort of like uh what is that called? Like special ritual for them to have kids or whatnot. I mean, that's definitely something I've never even thought of. It's like, hmm. Um. Anyways, the scuttle of little feet through the house, skeleton boys tumbling down the spiral stairs, little ragdoll girls with their threads coming loose, always needing their fingers and toes stitched back together. A perfectly grim little family. Jack plucks a single lavender rose growing beside the pastry. Then he holds it out to me. For the Queen of Halloween Town, he says, with a goofy little tip of his head as if he likes the sound of it. Queen. But the word echoes along the walls of my fabric inside, making me shiver. Still, I take the flower from him and bring it to my nose, all soft petals and a silking springtime scent. Jack weaves his fingers back through mine and whisks me up the street, away from the main center of the town, and down a winding path through a thick of stargazer flowers that open up to a wide river. Four small wooden boats sit tied to the shore, and Jack climbs into the bow of one with a lavender heart painted on the side, then takes hold of an oar. I don't think we should, I say. We don't know who they belong to. We'll only borrow it, he replies with a wink, and I can't help smiling back. He takes my hand and helps me into the teetering little boat. We push off the shore and dip my hand down into the water, but the surface is thick, like mud. What is it? I ask. Jack runs a finger along the top, then brings it to his mouth. Chocolate! He sinks his hand in again and then leans forward to place a dollop of warm melted chocolate on the end of my nose. I laugh, wiping it clean, then scoop up a handful of the chocolate river and lob it into his direction. He ducks just in time, barely missing it, and grinning widely, but he doesn't see the next wad of chocolate I launch towards him, and it splats right across his bone white face. A deep, rolling belly laugh rises inside of me, and I buckle forward, giggling so hard I fear I might split one of my seams. Jack is still laughing when I climb over the narrow bench seat separating us and kiss him square on the lips, tasting the sugary sweetness of dark chocolate. Thank you for bringing me here, I whisper against his mouth. He smiles. We can spend our lives exploring the other holidays together as king and queen. He kisses me again, his hand tracing the seams along my right cheekbone. But the word catches in my chest again, queen, like a thorn pricking in my linen flesh, digging in deeper, burrowing, burrowing. I can't seem to shake it. I'm still not used to it, I admit softly, leaning back against the side of the boat. What? Jack asks. Being called a queen. Jack rests the oars on the edge of the boat and leans forward, letting the current pull us through the canals of Valentinestown, along the boardwalk lined with cafes and chocolate shops, and even a greeting card store with handmade paper cards fluttering in the window. Halloween Town has never had a queen before, he says, tracing tracing the stitching along my palm with his bony fingers. You are the first. His dark moonless eyes stare into mine, rooting me in rooting me to him, and I feel a comfort in his gaze I've never known in anything else. You are now the queen of all of Halloween. I bite the side of my cheek, lowering my chin. What if I don't know how to be a queen? What if I do it all wrong? I peer at Jack through my eyelashes, afraid to meet his gaze dead on. Ruby Valentino was so charming and flawless and queen like. I don't know if I can be like that. Jack reveals a half smirk, glancing at me through his hooded eyes. You're not the queen of Valentine's Town. You're the queen of Halloween Town. He lifts his chin, smiles fully, and since you are the very first queen, you get to decide how you want to rule. He kisses my palm, lingering there before lifting his eyes to me to mine again. You are the pumpkin queen, Sally. You can do whatever you want. I nod, wanting to believe him, needing to, because the doubt churning in my stomach feels like tomb beetles tunneling through a corpse in the graveyard, breaking me apart. He shifts closer, the boat rocking beneath us, and he kisses me again. The coolness of his lips soothing my rumbling thoughts for the tiniest of moments. He kisses me deeper, wrapping his palm around my neck and along the seams of my spine, and I feel anchored to him. I feel anchored to him, my fabric flesh bound to the cold of his skeleton bones. His fingers find my neck, my jaws, and I feel breaking, melting, sinking beneath his touch, like he will never let me go, like we could stay this way forever, drifting down a chocolate river. I tell myself to forget who I'm supposed to be, because right now I'm simply a rag doll in a boat with a skeleton who I whom I love madly, feverishly, floating through a town where my title doesn't matter. Queen, 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 where no one knows who I am. At last, Jack lifts his mouth from mine, and little sparks blink behind my threaded eyelashes. I wanted to pull him back to me, telling him not to let me go, but the boat had shifted, slowed uh, against a clot of chocolate truffles along the bank, and Jack lifted the oars, steering us back into the center of the river, where the chocolate cart takes us beyond the edge of town, winding into a small rose-hued forest. I sink back against the bow of the boat, letting my arms drape over the side, watching Jack row with each perfect stroke in his arms, a bead of sweat glinting on his forehead. I tilt my eyes back and stare up at the perfectly blue sky, wanting to lose myself in a daydream, in the foolish idea that we could stay here in Valentine's Town forever. Two cupids flutter past overhead, a thin line of glitter trail down behind them. I like it here, in the quiet of this strange forest where pink tulips grow wild beneath the canopy of trees, and hearts have been carved into the bark, white elms with names etched into the bark. Jack plus Sally forever. We watch the cotton candy pink sunset fade beyond the trees outside of town, sipping glasses of muddled tulip wine, then collapse onto the feathery soft bed inside the cottage, giggling hands entwined, and I'm certain no moment could ever be as perfect as this. The swimming in my chest, Jack reciting nonsense poems, then laughing to himself. I want this to last forever. I want it to always be just Jack and me, side by side, till the end of time. But when I finally drift off into my sleep, my dreams are fitful and strange. I dream of Halloween Town pulled into a nameless darkness. I wandered the streets alone, struggling to make sense of each building, calling out to Jack, searching for him in the shadowed dark of our home, in Dr. Finkelstein's lab, on Spiral Hill, wherever we shared our first kiss. I grow desperate, fear edging along my seams. I stand in the center of town and I scream. The echo of it rattles in my ears, my chest, and I bolt awake. The blankets pulled up to my throat. Jack sounds asleep beside me. Um, I relax my fingers against the pale pink blankets embroidered with little hearts and turn onto my side, peering at the small square window. A dim pastel light is breaking through the trees, slanting into our little cottage. It's already morning, but my dream of Halloween Town, of the darkness that slunk along dusty corners, a terror building in my throat, lingering inside me, unshakable. Jack stares beside me, reaching out a hand to stroke his fingers through my hair. Good morning, wife, he softly says. I turn to meet his eyes, the coldness rim around their dark center, familiar in a way I don't think I will ever tire of. Good morning, husband, I echo. He pulls me closer, and we stay this way for a time, his breath against my ear, a moment I don't dare shatter uh, with words by telling him of the dream, of the nervous bouncing along my stitched ribs. But soon the birds begin to chatter from the trees, and the sounds of Valentine Town's waking echo through the streets, reaching us in the quiet of the cottage. Our honeymoon is over. After a breakfast of butterscotch pancakes with caramel syrup, Jack carries our suitcase through the cottage door, and we make our way beyond the edge of Valentine's Town, back to the grove of 7 trees. I pause and glance over my shoulder, the scent of sugar cookies dipped in chocolate hanging in the air. I still have hold the lavender rose Jack picked for me yesterday, but the further we walked from Valentine's Town, the more the petals began to wilt, turning dry in my hand. It won't last. By the time we return to Halloween Town, it will surely be dead. A flower that is only meant for this world. Ready to go home? Jack says, with a grin once we've entered the circle of trees. I wish we could stay a little longer, I admit. He pulls open the doors with the orange pumpkin etched into it. Halloween is only 2 weeks away, he reminds me. We need to get back. I nod, tilting my eyes up to the branches one last time, where the wind has shaken loose molecule-sized flowers and set them free on the warm air. But we'll return, I assure you, holding on out his hand for me to take. I had been nervous about leaving Halloween Town, but now, only a day later, I find I'm not ready to go back. Still, I take Jack's hand and we step through the small doorway, a whirl of tiny pumpkins spinning past my vision. In an instant, we're whistled back to Halloween Town. All right, that is the end of chapter 2. Um, so far, to recap what has happened, they took on their little vacation, which was quite sad. Their vacation was only a day, me like, or considered to be two, right? Because the day that they had, and then the day that they're going back, which they're not really doing anything. I'm guessing by the time they get back, but yeah, it's kind of sad. They only had like a day. They didn't even get a week. You know, at least the week would be good enough for your honeymoon, right? Um, but yeah, it's quite crazy. So they meet up, or they get to Valentine's Town. They meet up with Valentine. No, what's it? Her name was Ruby Valentino, right? She's the head of Valentine's Town. They stay at a cottage. They have like a cool magical boat ride, where they kissed and basically hung out. Enjoyed all the sweetness, that it has to offer. And then she has a dream. Um, I'm guessing, I'm guessing this dream of darkness is similar to like when the movie had showed her holding like a little flower and it looking like a Christmas tree, or turning into a Christmas tree and then getting set ablaze on fire. Is, I think, the same commonality is that she has the, I guess, would it be perception, um or it would be this ability to prophesize or see the future somewhat, the potential future. So I don't know. We'll go into chapter 3 tomorrow. But yeah, this is getting quite interesting. The vivid descriptions of, what she sees, what it tastes like. Like I can almost taste the sweetness myself, and I like a lot of sugary stuff. I mean, but yeah, um, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Like if you guys, stay tuned for some more and want to follow me up with Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. It's gonna be a good journey. I mean, if you like the Nightmare Before Christmas movie, like seeing what could happen afterwards or what this all means for Sally in itself, stay tuned for some more. I mean, if you don't like to read, it's all good. I mean, normally I don't like to read, but here I am reading for everybody else. So you don't like to read and you wanna have somebody read it to you. Here's here's where you could stay tuned and watch out for some more. Um, but yeah, probably a little bit later, I'm gonna be hopping on to some DMZ if you guys want to watch me for that. But this is it for this segment for part two's segment of Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. Thank you for everybody who joined and watched. For all of those who like it, subscribe. If not, who cares? But hey, I'm enjoying myself. I will see you guys later, my chaos.